I see it, Barry. This should be a very dynamite show.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of In Studio. I'm your host, Ted Perch, and today I'm on the road in the middle of the quiet corner of northeastern Connecticut in the town of Hampton. And my guest today is poet and photographer Wayne Erskine. Thanks for coming on the program, Wayne.
Thank you, Ted.
I'm looking forward to a really good discussion about your writing. I discovered your writing quite by accident, actually. I was in Willimantic, probably at the food co-op or someplace, and I picked up a copy. I picked up a copy of the paper, Neighbors, because a lot of, having lived in this area for a long time, a lot of people who represented in the paper write articles and so forth. I know who they are.
Sure.
And I noticed your poem, so I read the poem, and as I was explaining before, I read the poem, and I said, wow, whoa! I mean, and you'll read it soon, but it had such power and such vividness, and it just took my breath away. Yeah. You know, almost like time stopped for a second, and I had to collect myself, and I read it again. I said, yes, that's really what it. I wasn't imagining things.
So forget all the things I asked you to remember. They were only yesterday's guilty admissions. I will ask you to dance when the record stops playing, and together we shall miss all the other chances. Gather the language that swells as we speak. We will ask that each other does the talking. And in the small circles that bicycle around us, tell about all the mornings when we refused our turn to wind the little music boxes.
Now I was saying, to me that poem is about every failure of friendship, of relationships with friends, with family, with partners, and so on. And that's why it made such an impact on me. Like,
Yeah.
it brought all of that back. Now Leslie reminded me. She told me this morning as we were rereading it, and she says, on another level, the poem reinforces what one needs to know about relationships. You know. So in writing this, where did that come from?
Well, that's, for me, the age-old question in many ways. I don't know.
Right.
And I don't think I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't read other poets. I haven't for years and years and years, because I don't want anything to influence these things that happen in my head.
Yeah.
I would love to. I love poetry and I love to read, but it's been my thing. I'm absolutely not going to read other poets.
Yeah.
So I have the same reaction to that poem as you do. I'll go, wow.
Wow.
What's that? Where'd that come from? And I don't dissect it too much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of like that it's there and it's done, and I rarely change anything once I've written it.
Yeah.
Rarely. I just don't go back and change it. Even if 5 years later I read it and maybe I say, well, I could change this just a teeny bit or just move this. I never do that.
Yeah. Well, to me, this one it doesn't need to be changed. The wording and the language and the dynamics that arrangement of words and so forth that you've accomplished.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it just came right at me.
Wow, that's wonderful to hear.
And
it
becomes part of
the best compliment that you can receive.
Part of your soul, and it's always going to be there as a reminder of how to live in a way. How do you treat other people? How do you get along in the world with others?
Yeah.
Because this is what could happen, and this does happen. You know, it does happen.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
In spite of your best efforts, sometimes it is what happens. Things fail. Things come together. Things fall apart.
And it's interesting too, because I'll read a poem like that I wrote 2 or 3 years ago, and I almost get tearful. I'll get tearful sometimes. Go, the fact that somehow that came from within me but also that I'm reading it again for the first time,
Yeah.
as if maybe I wasn't even a part of it. There's just these words there that they've got this rhythm, and they're saying something that just really touches my heart, and that's to me is what poetry is all about.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's kind of like a message in a bottle. You write the thing, you put it in a bottle, and you throw it out there, and whoever's going to see it. I wandered into a store, saw it in the newspaper, and there it was. It was delivered. The message was delivered, and it had such, like I said before, it has such energy and power that I stopped breathing. You know, I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to repeat myself, but because it was so evocative of my life, my own ups and downs and that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, he really did write that. Oh my God! And I read and I keep that by my computer. So when I'm working in my office or anything, I read that every day because it helps refresh. It helps keep me. It keeps it green for me. It keeps what life and relationships are about, and because I get a little lazy about things. I get like complacent, and this reminds me, no, don't do that. How did you start? When did you start writing, or how did this poetry become a thing for you?
It's interesting. I have recollections as a child of writing poetry. I was born and raised in Lima, Ohio, and I can remember writing a poem called Jake.
Uh-huh.
I had to be less than 10 years old, probably more like 6 or 7, because we moved away from Lima when I was 10. But I remember one of the little lines that said that Jake wasn't a bad man, he just wasn't good. And all the city folk called him Jake the Hood.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, that I was, I'd written the most beautiful thing ever written, and I wrote a few other little things. My parents, they were hardworking people, didn't quite get what poetry's about, my dad especially.
Yeah.
So it kind of fell by the wayside. But in high school, I took an English class, and I was an athlete and totally not interested in academics. And I was taking an English class, as we're forced to do, and it came to poetry. And the teacher would read a poem, and she would say, "What do you think that's about?"
Yeah, what's it all about?
Yeah, and I always kind of knew. I made a connection with it, and
Yeah.
I didn't understand it. How am I making this connection with this poetry? But the darndest thing is that my whole life, when I go to sleep at night, I dream in words. I see page after page after page of a written word of some sort. And it's recurring. I'm 71 years old, and it still happens.
Uh-huh.
No visuals.
A visual of a page of written words.
Oh, no kidding. Well, some people dream in color. Some people dream in, pictorial images, artists and painters and so forth.
Exactly.
And
Well, it makes you wonder. You talk about reincarnation or different things. Other lives that you have led. There's something there
yeah,
that happens inside me that I'm compelled to put words down on paper,
yeah,
and not a story, but as a poem.
yeah. It's fun because poetry, as we know, is very different than a story.
Exactly.
I mean, we all respond to storytelling. That's all part of our DNA. As human beings, we require storytelling to explain things to us.
Yeah.
Human interactions plus our interactions with the wider world. We require storytelling. It's always been true. Probably in large part because for such a long time people were illiterate. We didn't have a writing system, so you had to sit around the campfire and listen to somebody tell a story about, oh, by the way, there was a bear out there, or we found a herd of deer, or whatever.
Yeah.
and that's how they passed on information to everybody, to the next generation.
Yeah.
And poetry, I've heard over the years that poetry comes from, it comes from song. Someone was compelled to sing a song about something was on their mind, and it's short verse. You can't sing a song like for 400, like Moby Dick was. Moby Dick would never be a song.
Yeah.
But something, so it has that. So it's compressed and down to this condensed form that once you do that, it has this explosive power. Or it could, there are some lyric poems that are you go right along,
And that's important to me too.
Yeah.
It's not always just the words. Sometimes it is the rhythms.
Yes.
Because I love, the way, and my wife is, sometimes she'll read my poem, she goes, and she goes, well, what's that about? I said, what's it about anything, really? It's it's the words and how they flow and how and she gets it sometimes, and other times she just goes, well, I don't get it. But I love that, how one word will accentuate another, and they dance together, and I just, I love that. Yeah,
absolutely. You're in touch with all that.
I hope so.
The rhythmic quality, the sound.
Yeah,
it's important, and how you can create, you can craft that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So you're just writing. It just came out of you. So you're gifted with. Your muse is gifted, and you are putting that out.
Yeah.
Your job is to put this out into the world, wherever it lands.
A newspaper. Who would have thought it?
Who would have thought it? This monthly newspaper in this rural area of Connecticut, and there it is.
And it's really a great way to do it. Believe it or not, I can, like, you asked me about have I published a book or anything. I started doing all that, and with my photographs and with this, and went through the whole process and stuff. Technology and I just don't mix.
Yeah.
To do that, to make it work. Oh, jeez, it was a headache. And when I saw that Ted, what's his name, King, who's Tom King, who's the editor of the Neighbors. He put a little ad. If you have poems or artwork or something, just send it in there. And I thought, seems like a great way, because it's everywhere you go, you see these.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So and I've been to New York City and gone to a poetry bookstore, and you go like, there's 5 million books in here.
Yeah. How do you choose one? What?
Or where could I possibly fit in? Who's going to pick up something that I've written?
Yeah.
And it's not all about that. It's not about how many people read it, but boy, it's nice. Like, it touched your life. Tom has gotten rid of me, or gotten a hold of me and said, people cut it out. They send letters in and say, I cut it out. I put it on my refrigerator every day. I mean, that to me is
I emailed them. I said, I'm reading Wayne Erskine's poetry, and I have to get in touch with him.
Yeah.
I just have to get in touch.
He forwarded it to me.
He forwarded it to me. I do this program in Western Massachusetts, and blah, 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 and I really have to get in touch with him, because this figure poem really changed my life.
Well,
and it changes everybody's
It's
life.
wonderful to hear that. I'm thrilled to know that had that.
Would this be a good time for me to
absolutely.
mention about that particular one? It was on Ted's dresser, and I saw it, and this is terrible. I wish I felt I had the latitude to crumple it up and throw it out. It is so sad. And then I saw, it was a cautionary tale. I know nothing about poetry. When it comes to relationship poetry, it just comes down to Shakespeare, let me not to the marriage of two minds,
Yeah, sure.
But when I saw that, it reminded me of the advice we used to see in women's magazines. Do not abuse your husband because he left his dirty socks on the floor. Someday you will wish you were still seeing those socks, which was advice that I took, and it was good when my husband died about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I had paid attention to that advice, but this really, particularly, in the relationship late in life, it really, really struck to the heart. And I thought, how sad, how often we don't bother with the music. It was such a wonderful metaphor for putting off or just not noticing, or, getting buried in the quotidian details, or the little thoughtless and, just basic failures in common courtesy that happen, that we slide into.
Yeah.
So I hated to see it, but I'm so happy I saw it. And on a practical level, I know all kinds of awful things happen in marriages, but for ordinary folks, probably the gradual breakdown comes through this carelessness. And I thought what a fortune people could save in counseling fees if they just would read your poem.
It's wonderful you said it. And
Yeah,
to me, it feels like sometimes we just forgot to notice.
yeah, we do.
Mhm.
We just don't notice, and
The days go by, the years go by, and at some point, perhaps it's too late to reclaim a friendship or
Exactly.
a marriage or whatever kind of relationship may be involved. It becomes too late, and then you look back and you say, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Well, this will help you out.
wow, that's wonderful. Thank
Oh,
you for
God.
sharing that with me.
Oh,
It's wonderful
yes.
that you guys feel that way.
Now I did bring some others
Okay.
because there was now Requiem. Now, this was in the June. This was in this past summer's.
What's better here? Oh, how we wish we could be there to see how it all ends. We went to gather all the spring flowers in a beautiful bouquet and place them by the roadside. We watched the trees for the signs of new growth and hope they will be there before we are gone. We look for each and every one of you in the moments that we find between all the days and all the nights. How wonderful it would be to gather you all down by the edge of shallow waters and tell you how beautifully you have enriched our lives. We appreciate all the bounty that you have bestowed on our hearts. We ask you all this. Look for us now and then when you feel the wind on your face or the sun on your back or the cold chill of the night air as you move from one place to the next. We will watch for you as well and all the things that come after, and will embrace forever the buoyancy that all your love has provided. We promise to be guided by the remarkable and will leave the ordinary behind. Close the curtains only when you can feel the silence of breath. We will find there the center of you all.
Okay, that's.
So you had a question?
Well, one question would be, I mean, it sounds very superficial, but what's this all about? I mean, who are we? Who is you? Who is they? Who are we?
Well, it's interesting because I said earlier that I never change a poem,
Yeah.
except for this one.
Uh-huh.
I used to say I. Everything was I. And I didn't think that was the proper way to share it with the neighbors, so I changed it to we, because I felt like it was more a collective kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to be about me. So,
But it can be both. But it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because I wrote it. It's about me to
Yeah.
a certain extent. But I think my original thought as I was writing it was, it's kind of a goodbye.
Yeah. Requiems usually are.
It's not kind of a goodbye. I guess it is a goodbye. But not right now.
No. Well, you further that theme in another work that I brought.
I do.
Well, when when I read this, it's got as we get older, as we have gotten older, and the people we have left behind, who have left us, we continue to go forward at this point. But those who us left behind, our parents, siblings, friends, pets, everybody, everything gets left behind, and I think that you say how we could be there to see how it all ends. Well, you have to think about that like forever because there's no really answer to that. I don't think so. We want to be.
I don't
there.
have it.
I don't have it. We want to be there to see how it all ends. Yeah, we all want to be there to see how it all ends, but we're not going to be, perhaps. And the stage, you said, we want to gather the spring flowers and put them by the roadside so that you could. I mean, my God, man, you have this. You just know how to do this, and not that you know how to do it, but you are in touch with some sort of divine, and apparently you have been all of your life, so with some sort of divine spirit that's out there for us to experience. So you're really giving us a soulful experience that, you know, you're adding to the way we live our lives. And you know, and honestly, obviously it goes on. How wonderful it would be to gather you all down by the edge of shallow waters and tell you how beautifully you have enriched our lives. Oh my God, I think about this a lot because my parents died when I was young, and like I said, as I've gotten older, friends are passing away. I lost three close friends in the past year and a half, and I think about them, and I think
And
about.
do we tell them, you know, how they touched us?
How
we loved them, how
yeah.
or the other side of that, I wish I would have told you more,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah.
that- you know, I understand now that maybe I missed an opportunity to love you more than I did. What a gift to give somebody.
Yeah. And yes, I think in my case, I think I had managed to tell them.
It seems like you would be the person.
You know, sometimes I miss that. Sometimes time goes by and you get involved with your life, and people are separated by distances, so you don't see each other every day. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but I think I pretty much managed to communicate to those two guys. They had been with me for 50 plus years. We had been friends, and knowing that they were ill, and I carry prostate cancer with me, non-lethal, but I carry that with me. So the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
It's ticking anyways, but you know,
all the clocks.
and hopefully I managed to communicate to them how much they meant to me over the years.
It's interesting too because in college I took a course, the philosophy of death and dying,
Yeah.
kind of based on Kubler-Ross's
Right,
kind
right.
of thing. And you know, we had to visit a funeral home, and we saw them bombing things, and you know, bodies, the whole thing. But we had to write our own tombstone
Oh yeah.
thing, and that was one of the assignments. And I wrote, "I miss myself."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about it. You know, that's part of that a little bit. It's like, I wish I could be there to see how it all ends.
Yeah. And I miss
You know,
it.
it's not just my demise or my going away or being not there. It's I want to see what happens to everything.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of all, you know. And that's kind of where that kind of came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you know that you will not?
You don't.
Well, that's that. Now Leslie mentions when she read this, we were talking about it a while back. Talking about how who is actually.
Oh, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, exact belief systems don't matter. I don't think that we are just a bag of chemicals, you know, that falls apart.
Yeah.
So when I read this first, I was thinking from the point of view of we who are bereaved, but then I thought, well, who's inviting home to this get-together?
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of Johnny and June Carter Cash's On the Other Bank of Jordan. I listened to it this morning, not in front of Ted because I always break down,
Yeah.
you know, but it's not a sad feeling. It was a feeling of longing for the eventual reuniting, and we go on,
Yeah.
rather than from this side.
Yeah.
Who's inviting whom? And I like,
Good point.
for my own self, as I guess we are authorized to interpret poetry in our own way,
Absolutely.
for my own self, it opened it up into almost a cheerful question. Who's inviting whom? We don't know,
Yeah.
but it will happen.
And I hope there's always room for that
Uh-huh.
in the things that I write, that, you know, for whoever reads it to take away from whatever they need to take away from it.
Yeah,
You know?
well, it was there because I didn't sneak it in there all on my own.
Yeah.
I'm not a poet.
And some part of this is it's almost like promising the ones that you're speaking to, the ones that the dearly departed, that you will be guided by the remarkable and leave the ordinary behind, because their memory deserves that.
Absolutely.
And it was also like, well, on which side of the dimension is this? Are dearly departed there observing us? You know, we're going to leave the flowers by the roadside for you to see. Not so much that we're doing it for them. We're doing it for each other, because we don't know really. But it occurred to me that was my question. I mean, who's speaking here? We the living, or are we speaking to our dearly departed? Or are they somehow in our imaginations communicating back to us that, you know, we were guided by the buoyancy of your love? Well, both.
Right.
It's reciprocal. Both.
Right.
You know, and try to remember that. And the one line here that, I mean, it's all just. We will embrace forever the buoyancy that all your love has provided. Are you kidding? The buoyancy that all of your love provided. I think about that and let that roll through me, and how buoyancy of love. You know,
Exactly.
How many song lyrics do you hear about, you know, love lifted me off my feet, and you know,
Absolutely.
it's that expansive connection to the all, and that's the other part. I mean, that's where I began to think, well, this is about us. It's about them. It's about both sides now. You know, and that you were given this message.
Yeah.
They were given these words to communicate this experience, or whatever I'm trying to talk about.
Yeah.
It's like, my God, how wonderful this is.
I sometimes think that somehow through me it's like almost like a channeling.
Yeah.
You know, that I give something a voice that I don't even know where it comes from. You know, which is interesting. You know, very interesting to me. But I'm so glad that it's there. You know, because it's a need sometimes. I just need this.
And you've managed to develop it. That's not quite the word, but to.
Well, it's certainly not Jake the Hood.
Well, hey, no, who's Jake the Hood? Jake the Hood. Now you're asking about an identity of somebody. You know, a real person or imaginary.
Yeah.
Then you think, who is Jake the Hood? Who could he be? You know, he could be anything. Anything you want him to be, but you just left with that. When you mentioned that, I'm thinking, Jake the Hood. Yeah, who could Jake the Hood be? Yeah. So, and close the curtains only when you feel the silence of breath. Silence of breath. We will find there the center of you all. Okay. I just gotta leave that there. Leave it there, and up there in the. All right. So we're here in the northeast corner of the quiet corner of Connecticut, talking to poet and photographer Wayne Erskine.
Insist that no one is hearing the darkening light. Days filled with empty promises made without any notice. Catch a glimpse of the underbelly deniers, trapped between broken nuances and dreams that cannot possibly ever come true. Cast dispersions like a tattered and smelly fishnet around those who seek to abolish all the sandboxes that hold the memories of memories never really existing at all.
You know, that's very, I could say it's very political. It has a lot to do with our current consciousness that's flying around, that's been flying around for a while, which I began to think that we're getting tired of. It's run its course, you know. The disease the fever is broken, and there's going to be, we hope, But there's also here, it's just that no one is hearing the darkening light, days filled with empty promises made without any notice. The darkening light is, I'm not going to say, are you writing this kind of thing because you're getting older, because you've gotten older? It's a way of, it's a not a retrospective, but it's,
I think
we have this different view as our if you were a younger
so life
person,
narrows.
yeah, if you were a younger person, you perhaps would be writing a completely different poem, because you would have a completely different outlook on the life you were living it when you were 25 or 30. But now, being 71 and 76 and 75, that we're given, we have the grace of looking back and having not so much, it's more than a comment on it, but a statement about what it seemed to be.
Well, I think I can't avoid the fact that I'm aging.
Yeah.
Whether that, I guess there's an influence there. I'm not sure that's what that poem's about. You know, it's about me aging and seeing things like the darkening light. I think more than anything, I like the way darkening and light sounded together.
Yeah.
You know, I like the way they bang up against one another, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're just there together. I don't know.
But as I was listening, I was thinking of all the forces that are always working in our lives. I guess globally, as a species or whatever our shared consciousness may or may not be.
Right.
What works at a certain time, like things come together and things fall apart.
Yeah.
And there's the tide that comes in and then it goes out. The moon waxes and wanes, and there's like it's not Ecclesiastes. It's time for everything under the sun. So that you're aware of that. We're all aware. Well, we're not consciously aware of that sometimes, because when we're in the middle of it, it seems like, oh, this is all there is. But
Well, it's interesting to me sometimes too, because sometimes the title to me is a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Because to me that always comes after the poem. It's not. I go, well, what am I going to call this? And you kind of look at it that way, and it's the same process. All of a sudden it pops into my head. Peepholes. With a W. And again, it's the kind of the play on words. Am I really looking through something, or am I looking through something?
Yeah.
Am I seeing the big picture, or am I seeing the narrow picture? I think that's part of that.
But
there's a question there.
Well, yeah, the whole.
Exactly.
It's not HO.
Exactly.
It's whole. So it's the whole view. Or the whole. Yeah, the whole view.
Yeah.
You may be narrow or wide, but it's the whole thing.
But a peephole.
Yeah.
That's a little teeny little.
That's
thing.
a little teeny focus. That's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, as I said, I think there's a lot there about you're channeling a lot of what's in the atmosphere around us, has been for a while. That this swirling kind of motion. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of discord, and you can't help.
It's just
but
the world.
It's just the world. It's probably the way the world's always been.
Yeah.
We think we're so unique at this point, that things are so tense and so ugly, but you look back over the 20th century.
Just the Holocaust.
Constantly. I mean, we've never, the human race has never been at a point, doesn't seem to me, at a point where we could just sit back and say,
yeah, we made it.
We made it. Now we're just gonna chill for the next 100 years, and everything's been worked out.
Yeah, exactly.
No more arguments, no more conflict. We're all good. Everybody's eating well.
Yeah.
We have a place to sleep. Everybody is accounted for.
Sure.
Wow, we did it. No. It just moves along.
Yeah, it does. We shuffle.
Yeah, we shuffle.
Shuffle.
The peephole is a funny thing, isn't it? Because when we say peephole, we mean something tiny. But then I am thinking of that gigantic sculpture installation in the orchard up where you live.
Oh yeah.
It's the camera obscura.
Yeah.
Yes.
and the people actually shows everything
Yeah.
only upside down.
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that photograph, we have a stone out front in our yard, and it has a hole in it, and that's what that is.
Okay.
It's looking through this rock, this big rock. It's got a hole in it. And I immediately, when the title came up, I thought, well, I know what my photograph's going to be.
Was it perhaps a millstone? Actual through.
I don't think so. I don't
No.
think so. We've got some millstones, but I don't think that's what it was. I think somebody cut a hole in it.
Well, yeah,
Just
for
some reason.
whatever. And also, it reminds me too. Not having said that, when at Window Rock in Arizona, the Navajo capital,
Mhm.
the Navajo Nation, Window Rock. You look when you're at the complex, the government complex, right behind it, huge mountainous escarpment there. There's the Window Rock, and it's got this hole in it. It's like that. It's got this, and it's a portal. You know, obviously, it's there. They built their compound around it because it's a sacred space, because it's a portal to whatever other dimension you can imagine, individually or for them as a people. And you know, it functions the same way.
The very large people.
Yeah, it's a very large people, but it's still a window into whatever there is,
Sure, yeah.
and that's how that stuff functions.
Yeah.
Here's a short one. And this was taken off the website.
Winter Blues. This is titled Winter Blues. Look, forgotten melodies, some old and some not so new. Days spent quietly listening to clouds humming deepening blues. Memory strumming faded tunes, not just for me, for you, or you. Quiet mics and silent chords, sung by a dwindling few. Days renew the faintest whisper of ways one takes a chance, reminding all who dare to try some music's not made for dance.
Yeah, it's got that blues rhythm.
Yeah.
It's got that rhythm.
Yeah.
Some music is made to listen to, perhaps. I mean, you would know.
Or some lyrics just to feel.
Yeah, just is.
Yeah, just is.
Well, clouds humming deep. You know.
I find music in the little wind chimes we have outside. That just.
Yeah, I think I remember, or still, if I go out for walking by myself, perhaps I'll stop and just listen to the wind, listen to the birds, listen to what the environment that you're in.
It's a melody. It's really.
Yeah, and it's all. If you listen long enough,
Yeah.
it goes on. It's got its own crescendo, and it comes and goes, and it gets louder, and then there's beats there.
And we're so fortunate here too, because the different times of the year, the melodies change. There's just summertime, the birds. In the fall, you hear an owl screech out into the woods, and it's just really remarkable.
Of the coyotes, or the
Coyotes. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Having lived here long enough, I remember all that stuff. Yeah, I remember that stuff. Oh, okay. I don't know how long they've gone on. I don't know how much longer. Because, that's well. Read that. Now that doesn't have a title either, but that's another one that really struck me as being.
This is a recent one.
Yeah.
The days seem narrowed, like the last few pages of a novel too good to put down. You can feel the pages thin. So much more is now on the side done than what remains to the unread right. The feelings. I don't want the story to end. Must keep going to find out what happens. I hold these days ahead in my hands, more precious now than when the end seems so far away. The truth is, this is a great book. I wish with all my heart that would go on and on and on.
Yeah. Yeah, we do, don't we?
We did. That was certainly about what you asked me earlier, about is the aging.
Yeah, we get aging, and I think Leslie and I were talking about it as well. It's and what you said, it was more hopeful than just because it's the pages are getting thin and
But there's still more. There's still more.
But there's still more,
Yeah.
and you want the more to be buoyant and not
Yeah, well, buoyant would be the word.
You just don't want to just fade away. You want to keep that buoyancy going because that's what you've got to live.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to use a good on you for being in touch with this and letting us know, hey folks.
And well, depending on your perspective, there is the thought that when we go, all we take with us is the quality of our mind, which means we have an exciting opportunity to make sure it gets better and better rather than, oh no, I'm going to die. What's the point? As well, take care for what you're going to carry with you.
Absolutely. That's a good point, Leslie.
I don't remember where exactly. I had read advice given by some, I think it was actually a Buddhist teacher, possibly in Ladakh, talking about this kind of thing, and he mentioned that anybody who writes poetry, fiction, anything, has to be very, very careful, because when they write or when they speak, they're entering somebody else's mind, and one must be responsible, not that you can always predict, but what seeds one is trying to plant. And I have to say, yours are, even when they verge on the heartbreaking, they're really wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yes, you enter their psyche for sure. And I have an awareness of that. I have an awareness of that.
To be Stephen King is maybe not a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, but he takes great pleasure in scaring people to death.
He does.
He think that's because he believes
It's made a good living. It's made a good living.
Well, he also thinks that's a healthy part of life to be scared. It's human, and why not experience it? Because once you experience fear or being scared, you know when you're not, and it's a helpful. I find it.
I wouldn't
I'm not into it, but
see
it's
it
like,
as therapy, but
yeah, fear is therapy. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get to this one, and no, there was one. No, this is from a catalog from. And I'll take pictures of Kathy Packer's new paintings that were in a gallery.
Show in New York at the First Street Gallery.
Yes, that's what it says. First Street Gallery. Here it is. I guess I'll have you read this. Equilibrium.
Equilibrium. My soul opens when I close my eyes and feel the heartbeats of the hundreds. They move through my mind with a grace that inspires me to gather with them beside still moments and join in their collective destiny. Our journey belongs entwined, each one of us responsible for the other. The images ignite my imagination, and with quieted thought, I taste the magnificent balance of all that surrounds me. Find me there, inside the sacred spaces that narrow and narrow, where we can still see the disappearing shadows and experience the magical equilibrium found in respectful acknowledgement and profound understanding. And if you read her artist statement, her works are very much about the environment. This is her. That's a self-portrait of her, carrying the animals that are endangered out of the. So she's very much about the endangered animals and what's happening in the environment, and her paintings reflect that.
I was listening to. We were watching some program. I think it was Nova or something. And the one statement that came out through the thing was that the rise of human species has been catastrophic to wildlife over the millennium, over the hundreds of thousands of years. We rose at everyone else's expense. And you look around, you think, oh, of course.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that I've begun to notice now. The insects population have disappeared.
Yeah.
Birds are becoming scarcer. Never mind mammals and other wildlife,
Yeah.
but frogs. Where have all the frogs gone and the amphibians? What? And
Can you imagine a spring without peepers?
Probably. Or there's fewer and
I
fewer.
wrote a peeper poem somewhere. Wasn't it?
Oh, yeah,
I was
where's that?
really moved by the peeper.
Oh, I didn't bring it, or did I?
Did you have the peeper poem?
No, I didn't bring it. I had it, but
Oh, I've got it on my phone, but
Yeah.
it's not that we need to read it, but I'm just saying that.
So equilibrium. Well, let's hope, but because we took the biblical admonition or whatever that declaration probably too close to heart that we have dominion over nature.
Yeah.
We were supposed to tend the garden, not destroy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're still writing, obviously.
So,
So long as you live and breathe, you're going to be.
I hope so.
The words are going to come out of that pen or that pencil at the end of your arm. It's going to. I hope so. I hope so. And it would. And I asked you if you had anything in print in a book. You said that you had several hundred poems that you
Yeah.
might self-publish in a collected work.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to. I guess more of a legacy kind of a thing.
Yeah.
To pass on. But I don't. This is fine. I don't feel like I need it for any kind of notoriety or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just. But I would like to.
But
and a lot of people that know me would like me to do that.
Yeah, so we could pass it. So we
Yeah,
could
so they
pass the
can have it.
book on to our children and
Yeah.
generations because.
Say this was meaningful to me. It's hard with the newspaper. That doesn't have the same.
No, it doesn't have the same thing, but you can't access them all.
Yeah, they have an archives.
It's
you can
in
go
a
to,
very modern way, but
Yeah.
you can't access it
Right.
online.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked that, it would be nice to have that to pass down.
Yeah.
Add it to my own. I mean, this is all, I'm adding all, this is all going to be added to my legacy, such as it's going to be. And, you talked about that you don't really need to have that for yourself. No, you don't. You've been given the gift of wordsmithing, whatever that is, creating these works, putting them out there, and you're affecting people's lives. And in a
It's very touching. what you
cosmic
just said.
kind of way, that's what you get to do. If you get to do that at all and maintain it, that's
The blessing.
That's the blessing. Yes,
Blessing.
because how much of human history is just been forgotten because it just gets forgotten for no reason. It's just time goes by and everything gets forgotten and buried. And how much do we know about the 17th century anymore? Not a lot,
Yeah.
We have representative
Exactly, yeah.
paintings and artworks that
Right.
still stand as monuments to that time. But what
What was it really like?
What was it really like? What was on people's minds? Here you get we get a heightened sense of what's
It's
on this
interesting too,
person's mind.
because there's a little poem that I wrote, and I'm sure you probably saw it in the Neighbors, called Saloon.
Yes,
Did you see that?
I don't remember.
And this to me is it's a little fun, and it was about the play on words. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read it. It's
All right,
it's a small little poem, but one of my favorites. And do you recognize that building?
Oh, that's behind the food co-op.
It is.
Yeah, whatever that
And-
street is up there.
I
Yeah.
love that building.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued by that building. Like, what was it? Was
What
it a
was
barn?
it?
Was it, yeah. So that's my saloon. That's
Yeah.
look. Somewhere a fiddler is playing. Worn boots shuffle along with the song. Whiskey-laced, throated expressions whispered where no one belongs. 12-stepped, two-step addition. Bull riding amusing the elite.
Mhm.
Crusty, crunchy reminders of sashaying with someone's left feet.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
See, I love that poem. I just, I don't, like, and where does a poem about a saloon pop into your head? You know what I mean? Like I'm as intrigued as anybody else about where did this, of course the title was later on, you know, but it was just somewhere a fiddler is playing.
Yeah.
Just, that's how it started.
And you bring to life this visual thing that's happening.
Yeah.
That has happened hundreds of years in saloons and pubs and barrooms everywhere.
Yeah.
And we all know
From
what
Moscow to Los Angeles. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Down the road at the back door.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
happens.
Yeah.
It's you know, and
Yeah.
people are together, they're socializing, they're, you know, everything you say, it's
Yeah.
all right there.
Yeah.
And we also know about the 12-step, 2-step.
We all know about the 12-step, 2-step. Indeed, we do. Yes. Don't go there.
Yeah.
Don't do that. It's bad for everybody. But
Yeah.
what do you leave behind? What do you look at? What do you see? What do you say about what your life has been about? When you walk down the road here and you look right and left in the cloud, you know, you leave behind some evidence of what it meant to you and what it and what it seemed to be like to you. You know, the requiem. You know, it's so powerful, isn't it?
It's also timeless.
And it's timeless.
And I think the photograph that accompanied that, I don't think you have it there.
I don't have it. No.
Was
Yeah, cut it
a
off.
stream that had two tributaries. That's
yes.
that's in Mashmucket.
Yes.
The park there.
Yeah.
They have a stream that does that. You go across the bridge and the stream goes
Branches
goes
off,
in two
yeah.
different directions, and that was kind of the inspiration for that poem.
That's right. And the photograph speaks to
Yeah.
that. I remember that, and I'll
Yeah.
recover that because the photograph speaks to that
Yeah,
perfectly.
it does.
As you have the genius to do. I mean,
I used to have the photography part. Just it was an addition. Years and years ago, I had my own darkroom,
yeah.
and I did film and developing and all that kind of stuff. And now it's it's so easy on your phone. It's
Yeah.
like, geez. And I even did digital for a while. I had a Nikon digital and the whole thing, but it's so easy to have this in your pocket and just like boom, there's the shot.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
I have a digital camera at home. I barely used it.
Yeah.
I used the phone. Oh, it's great.
Exactly. Yeah. And the quality is,
Yeah.
it's not horrible. It's,
Yeah.
it's decent.
So all in all, getting around to talked a while here and trying to wrap this up in a way. It's ongoing. You're continuing to write,
Yeah.
and you're continuing to publish in this funky little newspaper. It's a monthly publication called Neighbors. You can get it online. It's a regional paper. People from towns all around here contribute to this. Artworks and poetry and
if you open that up, Ted, there's typically on the back page there is where Tom puts me. That's at the top.
oh yeah, here. Oh, you're gonna have to read this because I didn't see that.
Oh yeah.
That's the November edition. I
it
haven't
is,
seen
yeah.
that. Oh boy.
I feel you watching me somewhere in places I cannot find. Is there something you need to say? I can hear you deeply breathing, and the quiet night interrupts my wish to be beyond this again and again illusion. The air is sweet with sandalwood, bathing my desires in the wispy, smoky burn. Have your eyes always been this color? Your hair smells of morning dew vanishing in a new daylight. Nothing and everything is as I remember. If I call your name, will you acknowledge? I search in the cracks and crevices of my mindless intent, begging to find why I always come back to this corner. Find me sitting alone again, and without my shadow, for even I cannot recognize one or the other. I am counting on you, watching me still, to bring me back once again to where it all begins to make uncommon sense.
Oh God. My God, Wayne. Yeah, that's just beautiful.
You can have that if you don't. If you
I don't have.
If you don't have it.
I don't have. I'm speechless.
Well, thanks for stopping.
But there's one thing that I'm speechless. But there's one There's one way to kind of put a, and this goes back to poetry.
Okay.
So it's completes the circle here.
Okay.
And this is in a book called How to Read a Poem by Edward Hirsch. It's actually a very interesting read. It's for students, I suppose. You know. It says, whenever a poem enacts what it is about, it creates a way for itself to live dramatically inside the reader. It becomes an experience unto itself. The great individual poem is a last will and I'm going to start that sentence again. The great individual poem is a last will and testament salvaged from the shipwreck, sealed in a bottle and cast out on the waters. So take the time to go down to the dunes to see if you can find it. It is there, and when you do, bring it home because it is now yours. You are its secret addressee. This haunted and haunting message was meant for you. Listen to it. Turn on the lamp. Read this poem to yourself in the middle of the night. The end. So, Wayne, thank you very much for taking the
Thank
time
you.
to talk about your work and about.
It's been my pleasure, truly.
Yeah, I'm near tears here because
Oh,
this
that's so
is
sweet.
it's just so there's so much substance and tasty stuff. So read the poem.
I hope it's always there for you.
Oh God, yes, yes it is. So once again, thank you very much for taking the time and
Thank you.
talking to us about it. And,
Thank you for reaching out. I do appreciate
oh,
it.
I could. Like I said, it was there for me to pick it up, and I
It happened, right? Kismet.
it happened. That's right. I was going to say it was accidental, it was coincidental. No, it wasn't. So, thank you for joining me. I'm on this edition of In Studio. I'm still Ted Perch, and I'm still the host of this program. Thank you for joining us, and join us next time for another edition of In Studio. Thank you.
Open your eyes, here comes a bigger part. I'm seeking to find the answers are easy to read. Face that inevitable. Face that inevitable. Open your eyes, here comes a bigger part.
My parting words would be relax, have fun, and rest easy.
And aloha.
Aloha! Aloha! Thank you.